After 8 years of leading my team, I finally developed a breakthrough drug for stomach cancer. At the victory party, I had planned to publicly announce my secret marriage to my wife, Victoria Marshall, the company's CEO. Instead, she arrived in a stunning gown, beaming, with her first love in tow. "Everyone, I'd like to introduce someone," she announced. "This is the recently returned medical PhD, Julian Vance. From now on, he will be serving as the new director of our Pharmaceutical Research Institute. Please give him a warm welcome." After the thunderous applause, Julian Vance took Victoria's hand, his face full of affection. "Tori, I can finally be by your side." Victoria blushed slightly. "Thank you for coming." Their hands remained tightly clasped, and the crowd started cheering and teasing them. Watching the sweet couple, I walked straight onto the stage and threw the research director's ID badge at Julian Vance. "Congratulations on becoming the new director, Dr. Vance. Since you're both so happy, why don't you get married to celebrate?" 1. Congratulations on becoming the new director, Dr. Vance. "Since you're both so happy, why don't you get married to celebrate?" I said with a smile, tossing the research director's ID badge at him. Seeing my actions, Victoria was furious. "Sincere Clark, what nonsense are you talking? Can't you tell, Ms. Marshall? I'm stepping aside." I watched them with a cold gaze, but my heart was breaking. I never imagined that the moment our breakthrough drug was successfully developed, I would be kicked to the curb, and by my own wife, no less. "Sincere Clark, this is the company's victory party. You'd better not cause a scene," Victoria said through gritted teeth. I couldn't help but chuckle. So she did remember it was the company's victory party. But wasn't this party being held for me? For the 8 years I'd worked day and night, pouring my soul into creating this stomach cancer drug. And what was she doing? She was letting Julian Vance take my position. She was handing over the fruits of my hard labor to her first love. Sensing the awkwardness, my colleagues tried to smooth things over. They had all witnessed my dedication and hard work over the past 8 years, how I'd led the team in the lab. But Victoria was the CEO, and the consequences of offending her were obvious. I, however, couldn't care less. I finished my celebratory drink, turned around and left. Walking down the street, a wave of desolation washed over me. All these years, for the sake of Victoria's dream, we had kept our marriage a secret. In her words, she didn't want our relationship to cause gossip in the company and affect the research progress. But now, it seemed... I laughed bitterly. As I walked, disheartened, through the night, my stomach condition flared up. In my quest to develop the anti-cancer drug, I had worked around the clock with an irregular diet for 8 years, which had led to a severe stomach ailment. The pain made me collapse onto the side of the road, and my mind drifted back to the past. Back then, Victoria and I were both students at medical university. I was in my 2nd year of grad school, and she was a junior. We met at a medical debate. My talent impressed her, and she often sought my advice. One thing led to another, and we got together. My initial field of research was ophthalmology and visual impairment. But after Victoria's mother passed away from stomach cancer, I changed my focus. At the time, Victoria held my hand, crying helplessly. "Why does stomach cancer even exist?" Sincere, if only there was a miracle drug to cure it. Because of her words, I dedicated 8 years of my life, day and night, to research. I loved her, so I wanted to make her wish come true. I also wanted every stomach cancer patient to have a chance at recovery. For that dream, I gave it my all. But in the end, the honk of a car horn snapped me out of my thoughts. Victoria was driving, with Julian Vance in the passenger seat. "Big Bro S, what are you doing walking out here all alone? Where are you headed? Want a ride?" Julian's tone was friendly, but his eyes held an unmistakable glint of provocation. My stomach was in agony, and I had no energy to argue. But my silence in Victoria's eyes was an insult to Julian. "Sincere Clark, what is your problem? You've been passive-aggressive since the party started. Julian is a medical PhD who studied abroad. Is this how you treat a guest? I know I didn't tell you in advance about stepping down as research director, but there was a reason. I'll explain when we get home, Tori, don't be angry. I'm sure Big Bro S didn't mean any harm. He's probably just unhappy seeing us together. Maybe I should just go. Absolutely not, Victoria huffed. A cold sweat beaded on my forehead. My hand, clutching my stomach, was losing its strength. I didn't want to listen to them. I just wanted to get to a hospital. I was about to speak when Julian's phone rang. What? Mimi has an upset stomach? Is it serious? Okay, I'm coming back right now. Julian hung up and looked at Victoria anxiously. Tori, Mimi isn't feeling well. Can you take me home first? Of course, Victoria replied. Without giving me a second glance, the engine roared, and the car sped away. Staring in the direction the car had gone, I closed my eyes in despair. After a long moment, I pulled out my phone and dialed the National Research Institute. Director Grant, I've made up my mind. I'll report for duty next month. Years ago, during my PhD studies, my advisor had recommended me for a position at the National Research Institute, but I had refused for Victoria's sake. Later, while working on the anti-cancer drug at her family's company, I had also developed several medications to alleviate its side effects. Director Grant from the Institute had taken notice and had tried to recruit me several times with very tempting offers. As much as I wanted to go and make a real mark, I never relented all for Victoria. I had given everything for her dream, only to end up with this. Now there was nothing left for me here. With that thought, I made a second call. Miss Sterling, I have a patent to sell you. 2. After getting an IV drip at the hospital, I sat in the hallway holding my imaging report. A laugh escaped my lips. Stomach cancer, how ironic. After dedicating my life to researching a cure for stomach cancer, I had developed it myself. The moment I saw the report, I collapsed onto a hospital chair. Just then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Victoria rushing over, supporting Julian. What are you doing here? Victoria seemed surprised to see me. I clenched my teeth against the pain and said coldly, my stomach was bothering me, so I came to get some medicine. What about you? Victoria frowned, glanced at Julian and explained, we were caught in a multi-car pile up on the way back. Julian got hurt while saving me. I looked at Julian's hand and chuckled softly. Indeed. If you're injured, you should see a doctor. Thanks for your concern, Big Bro S. It's just a little scrape on my hand. There was only a faint red mark on Julian's hand, the wound so tiny it was almost invisible. If you'd come any later, the wound might have healed on its own, I couldn't resist adding sarcastically. My words annoyed Victoria. Sincere Clark, what's with the sarcastic tone? Julian needs his hands for his experiments. We can't afford any risks. She glanced at the report in my hand and was about to speak, but Julian let out a pained grunt. Tori, Victoria immediately turned her attention back to him, shot me a cold glare, and said, I'm taking Julian to see a doctor. You can go home by yourself. After saying her piece, without waiting for my reaction, she hastily led Julian away. Anyone who didn't know better would think they were the couple, and I was just a stranger. So be it. Let them have their happy days. They wouldn't last much longer. 3. I left the hospital and returned to the home I shared with Victoria. Matching mugs, matching t-shirts, a photo from our first anniversary, graduation pictures, our wedding photo. Victoria had insisted we pick them all out together. After we got married, she had carefully arranged them in our display cabinet, but the cabinet doors were now covered in a thin layer of dust. Our relationship, too, had soured. When did it all start to change? Probably after Julian returned from abroad and contacted her for the first time. Before that, we did experiments together, commuted together. We encouraged each other through difficult challenges, promising we would conquer cancer. Then it turned into her frequently going on business trips, attending various academic conferences with Julian. But I trusted Victoria. I trusted our relationship. I never thought. It turns out a heart can truly change in an instant. I took all those items out and threw them in the trash. Just then, Victoria called. Sincere, I just finished up with Julian at the hospital. It's nothing serious. but he wants to get started on his work right away, so he's heading to the office to work late. You know, he just got here and isn't familiar with anything. I have to stay and help him. I'll be back later tonight. I couldn't be bothered to care. After I finished clearing everything out, my phone buzzed with a series of incoming photos. Pictures of Victoria and Julian watching a movie together, riding a Ferris wheel together, sitting on a bed drinking together. Sincere Clark, if you're a man, you'll leave Tori. She doesn't love you at all. See this? If I want her, she can be my woman any time. The messages that followed were even more vile. It was obvious they were from Julian. Even though I told myself I didn't care anymore, a sharp pain still pierced my heart. 4. I woke up the next morning and Victoria wasn't there, as expected. I contacted a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement, submitted my resignation to the company, and booked a train ticket back to my hometown. The only person I was worried about now was my mother. After my father passed away 2 years ago, I had wanted to bring her to the city to live with me, but she didn't want to leave the home she had shared with him. I hadn't insisted. Once I joined the National Research Institute, I wouldn't be able to come back for at least a few years. I had to spend some time with her before I left. The moment I arrived home, my mother greeted me at the door. "Why are you by yourself? Where's Victoria?" Seeing her concerned expression, I paused for a moment before painfully telling her everything. After listening, my mother's face filled with heartache. Then she asked me seriously, "Are you absolutely sure about this?" "Yes, the divorce is final, and I'll be joining the National Research Institute soon. I might not be back for a few years. I'm most worried about you. Don't you worry about me. Your mom is as healthy as an ox," she said with a smile. She was thrilled to hear I was going to the institute and supported whatever decision I made about the divorce. These few days with my mother, I felt a rare warmth of home. Victoria called once during that time asking why I wasn't at our house. I told her I was visiting my mom, and she didn't ask any more questions. Then again, her heart had long since left me. That evening, after getting ready for bed, I was scrolling on my phone when I saw a post on Julian's social media feed. The caption read, "Oops, we're trending." The picture was a photo of him and Victoria at an amusement park, taken by a live streaming influencer. Netizens were gushing over the gorgeous couple and had quickly dug up their identities. A new medical genius and a beautiful CEO. People were saying how perfect they were for each other. If I weren't the husband of one of the people involved, I suppose I would have agreed they made a good pair. I casually liked the post and went to sleep, not noticing the flashing light of my phone on the nightstand. 5. The next morning, I saw several missed calls and messages from Victoria from the night before. "Sincere, are you back from your hometown? I've been at the office with Julian these past few days. You know, he just got back and isn't familiar with everything. He's also under a lot of pressure taking over the lab, so I took him to the amusement park to relax. Please don't mind. We've run into a problem with the research. Can you come over?" I sneered at her messages. Although the anti-cancer drug had been developed, without me no one could easily replicate it. When things were going well, it was their private little world, all lovey-dovey. The moment a problem arose, they remembered me. After returning to our house, I left the divorce agreement on the bedroom table and left. As for their research problem, I smiled, like I give a damn. Meanwhile, Victoria and Julian were in complete chaos. How could this happen? Why is the drug compound reacting differently? I followed the formula and dosage exactly. Julian, watching his experiment fail time and time again, was on the verge of a breakdown. The staff around him were grumbling. When Director Clark prepared the compound with this formula, it worked perfectly. How can there be so many failures? If you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen. This is wasting so much time. Maybe the genius back from abroad is a fish out of water and can't swim. All right, that's enough. What are you all standing around for? Go find Sincere Clark. Hearing the staff's comments about Julian, Victoria didn't have time to defend him. She was desperate to solve the problem. This was the company's biggest investment in years, and their ability to attract major funding depended on this technology. But Director Clark already resigned yesterday. You personally signed his resignation letter, Miss Marshall. The secretary spoke up weakly. When did I agree? Before she could finish, Victoria remembered signing a document yesterday. The secretary had said something about a resignation, but she had been in a hurry to meet Julian at the amusement park and had signed it without a second thought. A sense of panic washed over her, and she immediately started making calls. A dozen calls, all went unanswered. You all stay here and continue the research. I'll go find him. The moment Victoria stepped out of the lab, she ran into the project manager from their rival company. What are you doing here? Seeing him, Victoria's already frayed nerves frayed further. Mr. Lynch sneered. Miss Marshall, Dr. Clark has already sold the patent for the breakthrough stomach cancer drug to us. I'm here to collect all the research formulas in your possession to avoid any future misunderstandings regarding patent infringement. Hearing his words, Victoria froze for a second, then flew into a rage. Impossible 6. Miss Marshall, here is the document signed by Dr. Clark. Mr. Lynch handed me the signed papers. She glanced at them and furiously threw them aside. Impossible, she couldn't believe I would be so ruthless to her. Why is it impossible? It just means Dr. Clark has finally seen the light. Years ago, we offered him the position of vice president, company stock options, a seaside villa, and a luxury car. But Dr. Clark wouldn't budge. Back then, I truly couldn't understand it. Why would he turn down a major company like ours to stay with you, Ms. Marshall, for 8 whole years? I don't know what you did, Ms. Marshall, to make a man like that call our MS Sterling in the middle of the night to sell his patent. And of course, Ms. Sterling would never turn down a deal that fell right into her lap. Isabella Sterling was my junior from my graduate school days. After I switched my major, she continued to study ophthalmology, and we lost touch. After graduation, she repeatedly tried to recruit me to her family's company, but I refused for Victoria's sake. Later, our companies became rivals, and we stopped communicating. Selling the patent to her was a carefully considered decision. I needed the drug to save my life, and Isabella needed a major success. We were on the same page instantly and struck a deal. Every one of Mr. Lynch's words hit Victoria like a hammer blow. She screamed, "Impossible," and ran out of the company. With the engine roaring, Victoria slammed the accelerator to the floor, completely oblivious to Julian following behind her. She felt as if everything was spiraling out of her control. Victoria rushed home and searched everywhere, from top to bottom. She found that all of my belongings were gone. The display cabinet in the living room, once filled with our photos and mementos, was completely empty. Victoria couldn't find a single trace of my existence in the entire house. At that moment, she truly panicked. Suddenly, she noticed the document on the table. Seeing the words divorce agreement, Victoria stumbled backward in disbelief. When she flipped to the next page and saw the stomach cancer diagnosis, her eyes widened, and she collapsed to the floor. Her hands trembled as she held the 2 documents, staring blankly for a long while before an idea seemed to strike her. She fumbled in her purse for her phone, tossing her $1,000 bag carelessly onto the floor. She dialed my number again and again. Dozens of calls, all went unanswered. With each unanswered call, Victoria's heart sank deeper and deeper into despair. Meanwhile, I had already arrived at the National Research Institute. Dr. Clark, welcome to the Institute. With talent like you, I am confident our country's pharmaceutical industry will reach new heights. Director Grant greeted me warmly. Thank you for this opportunity, Director. I will dedicate myself to my research and strive to serve our country. Director Grant was delighted by my words and showed me to my new workspace. My life was getting back on track. Unbeknownst to me, after failing to find me at any of my usual spots, Victoria had started to stalk Isabella Sterling. Victoria was convinced that since Isabella had bought the patent and knew about my cancer, she must know where I was. But Isabella avoided her. After days of trying, Victoria finally cornered Isabella in her office 7. Tell me where Sincere Clark is. He has stomach cancer. He needs me. Victoria cornered Isabella in her office, her face etched with anxiety. So now you're worried? When my senior was diagnosed, where were you? You were at academic conferences with your new flame when he was getting treatment in the hospital. Where were you? You were having fun at an amusement park with your new flame. You only remember him when you need him? Isabella's words left Victoria speechless. After a long pause, she tried to explain, "It's not like that. Julian and I are just friends. I didn't. You know very well what you did or didn't do. It's a little too late, don't you think? Ask yourself honestly, how did my senior treat you all these years? And how did you repay him? There is no way I'm telling you where he is." Isabella was one of the few people who knew we were married. When our company was just starting, we had only gotten our marriage license and hadn't held a ceremony. But somehow, Isabella found out and sent me a large cash gift for our wedding. Seeing that Isabella wouldn't reveal my whereabouts, Victoria grew desperate, even attempting to kneel before being stopped and escorted out. As Victoria stood outside Marshall Pharmaceuticals, frantically trying to get back in, she received a call from her secretary. "Ms. Marshall, there's a lawyer at the office. He said he couldn't reach you and couldn't find you at home, so he came here. You need to come back right away." 8. A lawyer? Thinking of the divorce agreement I had left, Victoria guessed I had hired a lawyer to handle the proceedings. Unable to get any information from Isabella, she thought she might be able to learn something from the lawyer. She sped back to the office, running several red lights and losing points on her license. "Where is Sincere Clark?" The moment she saw the lawyer, she demanded to know where I was. "Good day, Ms. Marshall. I am Mr. Wallace, the divorce attorney retained by Mr. Clark. My duty is to have you sign the divorce agreement. Where is Sincere Clark?" Victoria ignored his words, stubbornly repeating her question. "I'm sorry, Ms. Marshall, but I do not know. And even if I did, I could not disclose a client's private information. It is a matter of professional ethics. Please do not make this difficult for me." Ignoring him, Victoria grew agitated. "How much did Sincere Clark pay you?" "I'll pay you double, just tell me where he is." Mr. Wallace looked exasperated. "Ms. Marshall, if you refuse to cooperate, my client has instructed me to file for divorce." As soon as he finished speaking, Victoria lashed out in fury. "File for divorce? On what grounds?" As if expecting this, Mr. Wallace pulled a file from his briefcase. Just as he was about to hand it to Victoria, Julian, having heard the commotion, rushed in. "Tori, calm down." Seeing Julian, Victoria acted as if she had seen a savior. "Julian, quick, make him tell me where Sincere is." Julian froze for a moment. Then a smile touched his lips, but he feigned concern. "I heard a lawyer was here. Does Big Bro S want to divorce you?" "Yes, but I won't agree," Victoria said frantically. "Tori, don't get so worked up. We can find Big Bro S. It's okay to get the divorce first. He'll have to show up to finalize it." At Julian's words, Victoria's expression seemed to soften, but she still refused to sign. At this point, the lawyer interjected, "Miss Marshall, Mr. Clark has fully entrusted this matter to us. There is a document here I need you to look at." Mr. Wallace once again offered the file he hadn't had a chance to present earlier. When Victoria saw its contents, her face turned deathly pale. Inside were photos of her and Julian at the amusement park, at conferences, shopping together. She looked at a few pictures and said defiantly, This doesn't prove anything. I'm not getting a divorce." "Miss Marshall, you haven't finished. Please continue reading the documents." Following his instruction, Victoria kept looking, only to find more intimate photos and messages below. "I bet you've figured out who I am by now, right? If you know what's good for you, you'll leave on your own. Tori's true love is me, did you know? We slept together the day I got back. You should divorce her quietly before everyone finds out she cheated on you. How embarrassing would that be?" 9. Seeing the photos and messages, Victoria was overcome with rage. She slapped Julian across the face. "Julian Vance, you told me nothing happened that night. Why do these photos exist? Was it you? And these messages, did you send them to Sincere? Why would you do this? Victoria grew more hysterical with each question, slapping Julian again and again. If it weren't for you, he wouldn't have divorced me. This is all your fault. It's all your fault. Julian grabbed Victoria's arms, the veins on his hands bulging. Victoria, look closely. I'm Julian Vance, not Sincere Clark. I'm not going to coddle you. What did I do wrong? Don't play dumb. A man and a woman, alone drinking, end up in the same bed. Even an idiot knows what happens next. I only said nothing happened to ease your conscience. Did you actually believe it? If you hadn't kept playing games and leading me on, do you think I would have sent those photos to Sincere Clark? This is exactly what you wanted, isn't it? So why are you putting on this act? Hearing his words, Victoria struggled violently, broke free of his grasp, and slapped him again. How did you become like this? Was your old self just an act? As her angry words faded, Julian burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, Victoria! My dear Miss Marshall, you're still so naive. Sincere Clark really sheltered you all these years. How can you be so gullible? Back in the day, I just showed up a few times when you needed someone and flirted a bit, and you fell for me completely. If I hadn't gone abroad, do you think he would have ever had a chance? You're shameless, Victoria screamed, finally unable to take any more. She raised her hand to strike him again, but he caught her wrist and threw her aside. I'm shameless? How could I have succeeded if you didn't respond to me? You were the one who came running to me when you heard I was coming back. Why would I turn down something offered on a silver platter? You were the one who ignored Sincere Clark, so oblivious you didn't even know he had cancer. You were going to give me his job, his life's work. Isn't this all your own doing? Now that he wants a divorce, just sign the papers and be with me. It's better for everyone. Otherwise, if I leak all this, can you and your company handle the consequences? Victoria, collapsed on the floor, was silent. Having witnessed the entire scene, Mr. Wallace spoke up. Pardon the interruption, but please resolve your personal matters in private. Miss Marshall, my time is limited. I suggest you sign the divorce agreement promptly. Otherwise, I will have to proceed with filing a lawsuit on behalf of my client. Mr. Wallace's words seemed to snap Victoria back to reality. She stood up, picked up a pen, and decisively signed her name on the divorce agreement, pressing so hard the ink almost tore through the paper. Then she turned to Mr. Wallace and said, "The papers are signed. Now, will you be my lawyer? I want to charge Julian Vance with rape." 10. Mr. Wallace called to inform me that Victoria had signed the papers and had retained him for a new case. That was a turn of events I hadn't expected, but I had already started a new life. 5 years later, the breakthrough drug for bone cancer that my team and I developed was successfully launched. Congratulations, Professor Clark. I heard the new drug from your team is a huge success. Director Grant is even planning a special commendation for you all. Diana Hayes's cheerful voice rang out beside me, and I couldn't help but smile. Thank you, Dr. Hayes. In that case, would I have the honor of treating you to a celebratory dinner? Of course I'd be delighted. Diana was my girlfriend. 5 years ago, when I first joined the Institute, I had to quickly adapt to a new job and new colleagues, all while undergoing treatment for my stomach cancer. Even though Isabella sent me the medication every month, the illness still had a significant impact on my life. I met Diana, a researcher from another department at the Institute, at a seminar, and we quickly became friends. When she learned about my condition, she started coming over every day to make sure I ate on time, and my health gradually improved. She was confident, optimistic, and enthusiastic, a ray of sunshine who didn't seem like a researcher at all in her downtime. Her infectious cheerfulness made me more outgoing. But when she was working, she was incredibly serious, meticulous, and a perfectionist. On our days off, we would go to concerts. When we faced a tough problem, we'd tease each other. When we were bored, we'd watch movies or play chess. Because of Diana, my life became much richer and more colorful. After 2 years, we naturally got together. Because of Victoria, I had been disappointed in marriage, but I hadn't let myself get trapped in that despair. Diana was wonderful to me and I was deeply moved, so I proposed to her. 11. Diana, before I met you, I thought I could never love anyone again. But after meeting you, you showed me what it truly means to live. Your smile, your sincerity, your intelligence, they all drew me in. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? I looked at Diana nervously. Even though I was sure of her answer, the hand holding the ring couldn't stop trembling. I will. The moment she said yes, I pulled her excitedly into my arms. We soon took leave to go home for our wedding. When Director Grant found out, he happily gave us a large cash gift. Don't you two waste those good genes, hurry up and have a big, healthy baby, he said, making Diana blush. On our wedding day, the sun was shining, the sky was a perfect blue, and the grass was a vibrant green. Mr. Clark, do you take Miss Diana Hayes to be your wife, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do you part? As the officiant's voice echoed, just as I was about to say I do, another voice shattered the moment. I don't. The intruder was Victoria, whom I barely recognized. Once weighing over 100 pounds, she was now just skin and bones, maybe 80 pounds at most. Her gaunt face was caked with a thick layer of foundation, but even blush couldn't hide her exhaustion. She was wearing the wedding dress from our wedding, but her frail body couldn't fill it out. It looked more like she was draped in a large curtain. Sincere Clark, I regret everything. Can we get back together? Can I be your bride again? Hearing her words, I didn't hesitate. Victoria, not everything in life gets a second chance. I have a new love now, and I will spend the rest of my life loving her and taking care of her. We will grow old together. But what about me? Victoria shrieked, tears streaming down her face, as if I were some heartless scumbag who had abandoned her. By then, some of the wedding guests had recognized her and began to whisper, "Isn't that Victoria Marshall? I used to quite like her. I can't believe she cheated. I heard she didn't cheat, that she was assaulted and pressed charges. My great-aunt's granddaughter works at her company. She said Victoria was always flirting with that other guy. That's why Sincere divorced her. How does she have the nerve to show up here? She didn't cherish him then, and now she's here playing the victim. I heard her company went bankrupt a long time ago." Amid the murmurs, I took the microphone. "Victoria, please do not harass me and my wife. If you don't leave, I will call the police." My words seemed to knock the last bit of strength out of her, and she collapsed to the ground. I didn't care. I had security escort her out. This was my wedding day, and I wouldn't let anyone ruin it. I later found out what had happened. After Victoria took Julian to court, he flew into a rage and paid people to leak all their photos online. He tried to paint himself as a poor, helpless boy toy who had been forcibly kept by a powerful female CEO, hoping to use public opinion to confuse the issue and ruin Victoria's reputation. But he didn't realize that the same public opinion he tried to manipulate could just as easily turn against him. Initially, their affair was not widely known, even after Victoria pressed charges. But now the whole internet knew. After all, the new medical genius and beautiful CEO had been a trending topic when they were spotted at the amusement park, making everyone envious. Who would have thought that a short time later, the genius would claim he was forced into it while the CEO accused him of rape? Netizens turned into amateur detectives, digging for the truth. Their digging uncovered everything. Victoria's secret marriage, her affair with Julian while I was sick, our divorce, and the fact that Julian hadn't even finished his master's degree abroad. His credentials were fake. Someone even found out that the hero saving the damsel in distress moment when they first met in university was a scene Julian had paid actors to stage. They were both completely exposed. Julian Vance was sentenced to 8 years in prison for academic fraud, rape, and other combined offenses. As for Victoria, due to the public scandal and Isabella Sterling seizing the market opportunity, her company was forced into bankruptcy. She also developed severe depression. I heard that after my wedding, she disappeared. Some said they saw her living under an overpass, others said they saw her in the countryside. But none of that mattered to me anymore, because the most important thing for me now was to quickly change the diaper of my precious, hard-won baby daughter. This truly is a wonderful ordeal. The end.